Law number 3. Law number 3 is the law of process. And the law of process says leadership develops daily, not in a day. This is an incredible law. I hope I can teach it to you well. What did the proverb writer say? He said, like the horizons for breadth and the ocean for depth, the understanding of a good leader is broad and deep. What the proverb writer basically says is that if you're going to be a great leader, it's going to take a lot of experience. It's going to take a lot of exposure. It's going to take a lot of time to have that broad and deep view of a leader. Many times when I do leadership conferences, I'm asked this question. People will raise their hand. They'll say, John, let me ask you a question. I'll say, what is it? They'll say, John, are leaders born? And whenever they ask me the question, are leaders born? I always give them the same answer. Of course they are. Think about that question. I've never met an unborn leader. Don't particularly want to either, thank you very much. Now, what they're really asking is not, are leaders born? We know that they're born. What they're really asking is, are there some people that when they're born, they've got it? And I mean, they've got natural gifts and leadership abilities, and they're going to lead. And there's some people that when they're born, they don't got it. And they're going to follow all the rest of their lives. In other words, they're saying, are there the haves and the have-nots? And I want to stop here long enough to say with integrity with you that there are people that are born with leadership natural inclinations. Of course there are. Just like there are people that are musically inclined, there are people that are leadership inclined. Of course. But what I love about teaching the laws of leadership and what I've loved about working with leaders over 20 years is the fact that many, many people do not have natural leadership gifts that they've been taught how to lead. In fact, one of the key leaders in my whole organization is a fellow by the name of Dan Ryland. And Dan Ryland came to me right out of seminary. And I promise you, when he came out of seminary, we had an intern type program that we let him come for 1 year out of seminary for a 1 year of intern training before they could go on in the ministry. And I remember when Dan came, I thought, I'm never going to do this again. I mean, Dan almost killed the intern program. Oh, I mean, he was terrible. He was not a people person. I remember one day in the lobby out in front of the church, we were kind of talking, not a lot of us, maybe a half a dozen of us. And Dan, he had his briefcase and he walked right through the whole bunch of us. Never said hi. He just kept right on walking. And I thought, he just ignored all of us. So I just got behind him and I followed him into his office. And he sat down and I sat down and I said, Dan, let's talk. Yes. He said, yes. I said, you just walked through a room with people in it. And you never said hi. You never said good morning. You never said, how are you? He said, I know. He said, I got to get to work. I said, you just passed your work. The only appreciable asset any organization has is people. So I had to teach Dan how to smile. I had to teach Dan how to say hello. I had to teach people how to have an interest in people. This was a crash course for this boy. And I thought there were a lot of times we were just going to crash. Now, what's wonderful about that story, he was a melancholic. He wanted it just one way and no other way. If his briefcase slipped out of his hand and fell on the sidewalk and the books all fell out, they fell out in order. And we started working with him and working with his leadership. And what's so wonderful, by the end of the year, he had grown so much. That I said, Dan, I want you to stay on staff. And he stayed on the staff. He went all the way up to the number 2 guy, the executive pastor, and I was the vice president in joy and leadership area, and worked side by side with me. Called me on the phone last night somewhere in Florida today, doing some leadership training. And I look every time I look at Dan Ryland, I say, whoa, it's a miracle. Every time I look at Dan, I say to myself, leadership can be taught. I love the story about in a small European village, an old man sitting down at a bench, and some American tourists come by. And One of the American tourists goes up to the old man and said, "Let me ask you a question, sir." He said, "Have any great men been born in this village?" The old man said, "No, only babies." Now you can tell why I'm so excited about teaching you leadership. I'm excited about teaching you leadership because I understand this law of process. I understand that it's going to take a while. Yes, it is. That we're going to crock pot you into leadership, not microwave you. It's going to take a while. But what's exciting, the reason I'm here is because I know you can learn how to lead. So let me give you a couple of statements. Number one, we overestimate the event and we underestimate the process. What I mean by that is, we have a tendency to think that an event will do more for us than it really does. And we think that a process will do less for us than it does. Again, you can already tell, I am committed to raising you up as leaders. And I know to raise you up a leader, it has to be more than this leadership conference. It has to be more than a leadership video. That's why we have books. That's why we have those 21 tapes for a 21-month period, because I understand that if I'm going to help you to become a leader, it's going to be a process. Now, let me give you the difference between an event and a process. The event encourages decisions, where the process encourages development. Now, by the way, the events are very important. I'm not anti-events. I'm just saying they're not enough. So you come to a conference such as this, for example. Do you know what's going to happen to you here? Many of you are going to make a decision that is going to be life-changing. Many of you in this room are going to make a decision to become a leader. Now, that's very significant. That's the good news. The bad news is you can't become a leader at this conference. It's a little too quick. You can't get my 21 Laws book or Developing the Leader Within You book or developing. You don't put those books on your arm and walk out of this conference tomorrow evening and say, "Well, I are a leader." No, you're a person that has leadership resources. And you can become a leader. But you don't get to become a leader that quick. You see, the event, that's where you make the decision, but the process is where you develop. Let me give you some other examples. The event motivates people where the process matures people. A lot of difference. The event is a calendar issue. The process is a culture issue. The event challenges people and the process changes people. And the event is easy. The process is difficult. But champions are always made out of the process. Now, why does it take so long to learn to be a leader? Why can't we just get it all in one book or in one conference? Why does it take a long time to be a leader? Well, it's because leadership is many faceted. It goes back to the story I shared with you earlier about the young man who said, "Tell me the one thing I need to do to be a leader." There's not one thing you need to do to be a leader. There's not one thing you can do that'll make you a leader. It's many faceted. Let me give you some of those facets. Number one is skills. You need some skills. Number two is experience. That's where the wisdom part comes in. Number three is maturity. Number four is relationships, because you can never separate leadership from relationships. Number five is timing. Number six is culture. Number seven is training. And number eight is attitude. Now, there are more than what I gave you, but what I know is that those 8 plus probably another 20 are part of the process of leadership, just like the 21 laws. One law doesn't make you a leader, but the more laws that you learn, the better leader you become. Now, what I'm about to share with you at this part of this lesson is the most important thing that I'm going to say to you about this law. The secret of our success is found in our daily agenda. Let me talk to you about that. The secret of our success is found in our daily agenda. You say, John, what do you mean by that? What I mean by that is that if I could go home with you this evening, and tomorrow for the next 12 hours, we could hang around together. Now, let me say this. When I mean hang around, I want to hang around with you. You can do anything you want to do. You just do whatever you plan to do on the next day. But just let me for 12 hours. Let's say from 7 in the morning till 7 in the evening. Let me just hang around with you. I don't need to say anything. I don't need to do anything. Just let me stay beside you for 12 hours. And in that 12-hour period of time, if you wanted me to, by 7:30 tomorrow night, if you wanted me to, I wouldn't do this unless you asked, but if you wanted me to, if you would say, John, could you talk to me for a moment? Do you think I have potential for success after 12 hours spending time with you? I can tell you if you're going to make it. You say, wow, you can do that in just 12 hours? Yeah, I can. You see, if I can just spend 12 hours with you, I can tell whether you're going to be successful, or I can really tell whether you're going to be a failure in life. Because in that little window of time, I'm going to find the stuff that makes you a success, or the stuff that makes you a failure. Remember, the secret of your success is found in your daily agenda. Too many of us, we think success is something big and huge and someday, somewhere, under the rainbow, I'm going to get successful. You don't understand. That's why I wrote the book, The Success Journey. Now, when I wrote the book, The Success Journey, my publisher, Thomas Nelson, wanted to call the book The Journey to Success. In fact, I went to Nashville because I didn't want him to do this, and so I had to go kind of defend why I wanted to have it the title I did. And you got to understand, when you write a book, the publisher gets the right to put the name on the book. So for many years, I would write a book and I would give them a title of which they never took my title. I mean, for many years, I think probably the first dozen books I did, I never got to pick the title of my book. But I was so passionate about this, I flew to Nashville and I said, no, you can't do this. This book can't be called the Journey to Success. It's got to be called The Success Journey. And I sat down with him that day and I talked to him and I said, because there's no such thing as a journey to success. Success isn't a destination. It's not a destination thing, it's a daily thing. Success isn't somewhere over there. When people say, well, if I ever get that job, I'm going to be successful. If I ever get that raise, if I ever marry them, if I ever get that church. No. Cut that stuff out. We've got to quit thinking that success is somewhere. Let me explain it this way. If I walk across this stage, and this is a graduation, I've just graduated from college, I get my diploma, you're clapping and I'm happy, and I get my family, I got my cap and gown, we're getting pictures, and people say, congratulations, John, and thank you very much. Can I tell you something? I didn't become a success when I got my diploma. See, we confuse success with recognition of success. See, the day I got the diploma, I just got recognized. Are you with me? I didn't become successful the day I got the diploma. When did I become successful? In this college stuff, I became successful the day I decided to go to college, didn't I? And every day that I studied instead of goofed off, and every day I worked on preparing for a test, and every day I was a success. You see, I was a success my freshman year. I was a success my sophomore year. I was a success my junior year, my senior. I was a success every day. I just one day got a diploma and got recognized. do we have this confused? Can I tell you something? Just not only is success a daily thing, so is failure. There's no such thing as he just failed. You don't just fail. You know, when I was pastoring, every once in a while a husband would come into the office and his hair would be disheveled and his eyes would be bloodshot. He said, "Oh, Pastor, you're going to have to help me. Oh, Pastor, what could I do? What's wrong? What's wrong? Oh, my wife left me last night. Oh, my wife, she's gone. She left me last night. My marriage failed last night." No. It didn't fail last night. It just showed up last night. You've been working on being bad for a long time. That's why I have a passion for us to understand the process. And it is true that I can look at your daily agenda and I can pretty much off of that 12-hour window tell you if you're going to be successful or not. Let me give you things I'll learn if I'm with you for 12 hours, and these are only a few of the many things I'll learn. Number one, I'll learn about your priorities. If I get to spend 12 hours with you, I'll find out real quick what you think is important. Number two, your passion. I'll find out in a 12-hour period of time what really you are passionate about, what you live for and die for. I will find out about your passion. Number three, your abilities. I'll find out in 12 hours pretty much how able you are to do certain things. Number four, relationships. If I could spend 12 hours with you, do you know what I can find out about you in 12 hours? I can find out in 12 hours if people like you or not. Number five, I can find out a lot about your attitude in 12 hours. In fact, can I say this? I don't need 12 hours to find out about your attitude. About 12 minutes is all I need. Isn't that true? Don't you just see some people walk down the street and say, "Bad attitude"? You're on an elevator, somebody walks on the elevator and say, "Oh no, hope this elevator doesn't get stuck. This wouldn't be any fun to be on this stuck elevator with this individual." And when you watch them go away, they get off and you're not getting off with them, you say, "Thank God I don't have to go with that person." You see your attitude. 12 minutes, I can tell you. If you've got a good attitude about yourself, about others, about God, that whole process. Number six, your personal disciplines. You see, if I can have 12 hours with you, I'm going to find out how disciplined you are. Or number seven, I'm going to find out what your emotional qualities are. In other words, if I'm with you for a 12-hour period of time, I'm going to see how much emotional stamina you have. We moved to Atlanta, Georgia. The traffic is very heavy there. All you got to do is get in a car with somebody and find out their emotional stamina. It doesn't take long. People, you just go down in Atlanta and some wave to you. Some others give you other hand signals. Every once in a while I look at Atlanta, somebody's giving me a hand signal, I say, "Oh, they think I'm number one. Oh, wonderful." Oh. Just a thought. Number eight, I can find your influence level if I'm with you for 12 hours. You know what? If I'm with you for 12 hours, I can find if you influence anybody besides the dog. Okay? And if I'm with you for 12 hours, I can find out what your vision is. In other words, what do you want to be and what's your dream and what do you want to do? It's so true, that statement in your notes. Champions don't become champions in the ring. They are merely recognized there. Oh, this is so key. Let me just kind of put one little statement on the end of the law of process, and then I'm going to go to the questions. And here's what I'm wanting you to understand about the law of process. You can make a decision at this leadership conference to be a leader, But it will take a long time for you to become a leader. But how do you become a leader? One day at a time. Quit waiting for the lottery to come your way. Okay? Quit waiting for lightning to strike. One day at a time. 4 questions. 1, do I have a daily plan to grow as a leader? 2, do I have a leadership growth plan for my team? Wow, these are good questions. 3, am I developing a leadership culture in my organization? And 4, what are the evidences of a leadership culture? Now, I would encourage you in the resource section, the Enjoy Life Club is a monthly leadership tape club for people in Christian church leadership. The Maximum Impact Tape Club is a monthly tape club for people in business. I would encourage you in one of those tape clubs, if not both of them, to invest a little bit of money and every month get leadership training. And somebody come to me and say, well, John, I don't know what it is. That's like $12 a month. Well, yeah, of course it is. When you go to McDonald's and have a friend, you get a couple of Cokes and a couple of cheeseburgers and some fries, and you spent $12. Now, I got a question to ask you. Do you want to be a cheeseburger or a leader? I mean, you want the staff next Monday morning when you walk in and say, oh, here comes Big Mac, huh? I'm always amazed at people that don't want to invest in yourself. Can I tell you something? If you don't invest in yourself, no one else will. Why would we be cheap on our own development? Why would we shortcut our own development? Why do we not invest in ourselves knowing that everything's going to rise and fall on leadership? Well, there are the resources. Some wonderful ones. The 100 Lessons on Leadership, the first 100 lessons I've ever done on leadership. If you really want a crash course, I had a leader one time tell me, he said, I got the 100 lessons and listened to all of them in 3 weeks. I said, well, you didn't have anything else to do, did you? Talk about a leadership load and a loghead when you're all done. Of course, there's the book and the process that I've already talked to you about.